What's the issue here is what would James Bauder be facing if and when he came back to Canada? And we know now, as of today, the first thing he's going to be facing is an arrest warrant.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini here at the Ottawa courthouse, and I'm joined by criminal defense lawyer Lawrence Greenspon, who just submitted on behalf of James Bauder. He's in a desperate fight for freedom against tyrannical government overreach, whose defense from political persecution in Canada is being handled at no charge to him by the Democracy Fund. And if you want to chip in to help cover his legal fees, you can do so at thelasttrucker.com. Because Bauder is really a remnant of the historic 2022 grassroots Freedom Convoy, a movement that shook the world when ordinary working-class men and women stood up against government overreach being justified for years under the guise of fighting COVID-19. The truckers honked for liberty, for the right to live free from mandates and control, for bodily autonomy, and those who couldn't live under the suppressive regime anymore. But in Canada, once known as the True North Strong and Free, it had more of a totalitarian tiptoe under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's iron grip than many had ever experienced firsthand before. Convoy participants and supporters alike had their voices silenced, their bank accounts frozen, and their lives turned upside down, even though the government's unprecedented invocation of a revamped wartime legislation called the Emergencies Act was deemed unreasonable and charter violating by the federal court. Despite this, Bauder faces harsh punishment and political persecution in Canada for his actions, branded a criminal for his opposition to intrusive and indiscriminate government edicts. He's been driven away from his home, his livelihood, and ultimately, his country. Bauder faces multiple criminal charges, including mischief, intimidation, obstructing an officer, and 2 counts of counseling to commit indictable offenses. It's so bad that he has sought political asylum in the United States. Canadians thought the charter would protect them, but we don't have absolute protections against government overreach like they do in the US with the First Amendment. The Canadian Charter emphasizes justification for freedom limitation, while the First Amendment focuses on preventing government infringement. But thankfully, Bauder has the support of the Democracy Fund and a dedicated U.S. immigration lawyer navigating his case for the principles that made the Freedom Convoy a global symbol of resistance. Today, Mr. Greenspon was acting as an agent on behalf of Bauder in his defense. It was very short and sweet, what we heard in the proceedings today. Can you give our viewers just a quick overview of what happened in the courtroom?
Well, the first thing is that James Bauder wanted to be present today either by teleconference or by Zoom out of respect for the court. He can't be present in person because, and this was verified before the judge, he can't be present in person because to do so would mean he would forfeit his application for asylum, which is pending in the United States. So he couldn't be here. We basically said to the judge, look, in light of that, why don't we adjourn the trial and see how things go on the application for asylum? And judge was not willing to do that and issued a warrant for James Bauder's arrest.
Part of Justice, believe it's Phillips' remarks included that Bauder is asserting things like the courts are corrupt and they're biased, and he will not get a fair trial in Canada. Yeah. What do you make of that and the justice's response to those claims?
Well, that's certainly I don't make any comment at all about the basis for his application for asylum in the United States. That's something that's being handled by lawyers out of Buffalo. Anytime you hear those kinds of allegations, it's most unfortunate. And the fact of the matter is that, as the judge indicated, that the courts are not biased, that the courts are quite capable of making reasonable decisions and fair decisions. But that's really an argument that will have to be advanced by Mr. Bauder and his application for asylum.
Which I gather can take anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half.
Right.
And so the proceedings are scheduled to begin, I believe it's the second week of November, and slated for 3 weeks. What does that potentially look like moving forward? I mean, obviously you haven't consulted with clients yet, but how does that look knowing that Bauder will then have to forfeit his political asylum claim, which doesn't sound like he's willing to do.
No, he's not willing to do that, and it's anticipated that he will not attend in November. And what we were trying to do here was allot that time frame, that 3-week time frame for trial, put it off to some other time once the application for asylum has been adjudicated in the United States. I don't think he'll be here for the trial in November. It's just a matter of courtroom efficiency, and we know that the courts are backlogged, and keeping 3 weeks on hold for a trial that's not likely to happen, is not what we wanted.
Right. The Justice mentioned one other thing, which is the third safe country agreement between Canada and the United States. When he issued a warrant today and noted that agreement, would that compel something like the United States to extradite? I mean, what are the actions there? What do you think that reference was about?
The only thing I can guess at this point, there is, of course, an extradition treaty between Canada and the United States, but while an application for asylum is pending, and this is really a matter of U.S. law, I can't imagine that they would act on an extradition request from Canada if there was one even forthcoming.
So that request would have to be put forward apart from just a general kind of warrant.
Exactly.
So if Bauder does come back into the country, granted that a warrant was issued today, he would be immediately arrested.
That's correct.
And so moving forward, what can you say that looks like, in addition to your previous comments about the 3 weeks of trial that are unlikely to proceed?
Well, there's really not much else. It's if he's not here, he can't be facing a trial, and he's not going to be here and give up his application for asylum in the States. So,
do you have any idea what any lawyers in the United States might be saying? I know, for instance, the U.S. State Department has kind of taken an interest in free speech and expression, and especially censorship with some of their allies, like in the UK and the EU. Could Canada be next?
Well, the American system, in terms of free speech, we drafted our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the fundamental freedoms in that charter. Freedom of expression, freedom of peaceful assembly. Those are things that come directly from the United States. In the United States, however, they also have the protection of not just life, liberty of the person, but the right to enjoyment of property, which is something we don't have here in Canada in our charter. So it's quite a different argument. Where you have a peaceful protest, albeit one that lasted for 3 weeks, it's going to receive a certain treatment in the United States. It might well be different here in Canada.
What's your message to political dissidents in today's kind of legal landscape here in Canada, or anybody who would like to protest things like government overreach as the truckers were?
Well, my message has been, it has not been heeded, but my message is that if you have freedom of expression and you express yourself in a peaceful way and you assemble in a peaceful way, then that should, excuse the pun, trump any infringement on rights to enjoyment of property.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Lawrence. Appreciate your remarks. For Rebel News here in Ottawa, I'm Tamara Ugolini. If you would like to chip in to assist with James Bauder's legal defense here in Canada, you can do so at thelasttrucker.com. At that website, you can find out more information about this case and, of course, help support his legal defense. That's thelasttrucker.com.